Hi, I'm Amy Chalmers. This is my RSLA application, and here's question 1. So why would I want to lead others in a school? In studying sociology and global issues in college, I focused on learning as much as I could about the meaning, causes, and what it would take to reduce different types of inequality and inequity from our world, from racial segregation to educational inequity to gender and race inequality and job discrimination and incarceration and the unjust impact of environmental degradation and access to basic resources. It became overwhelming. The more I learned, the more I became increasingly clear that the intersection of our identities and the multiple systems that we exist in within our society make it impossible to address aspects of inequality separately. And searching endlessly to figure out where we could start as a nation with taking intersectionality into account, I kept finding myself starting with education. To have had an excellent education is to have the knowledge and tools to overcome most other barriers that emerge, and to have the capacity and confidence to share knowledge and engage more deeply in conversation with others that can lead to the collaboration and problem solving that we need as a society to interrupt other cycles of oppression and inequality. All this to say that while there are, of course, many careers I could follow, I don't think any are as fulfilling and as mentally and emotionally stimulating as working in a school. There are few days as a teacher that I don't experience a full range of human emotions before lunchtime. Unsurprisingly, I think working in education is actually the most educational experience that I can think of. I love learning, and I think continuing on a path towards school leadership will keep me constantly engaged, passionate, and increasingly in touch with who I am as a person and in touch with others at the deepest levels. As a school leader, I think the amount to which I love my job could be contagious. I truly believe that a sustainable, equitable, and effective school has to start with a school leader that has a plan, a vision, and a passion. I believe and have experienced this to be true for an effective classroom as well, but I know there's also only so much that can be done and accomplished in 45 minutes a day. My main strength, I think, that bodes well for school leadership is that I can look at things from the big picture, but also see all the little steps that it's going to take to get there, and all the steps that will make that vision a reality. A leader has to be willing to take some risks, but also be able to think ahead and foresee potential problems, and have a plan to conquer those ahead of time if possible. I think I have that vision, that passion, and thinking process based on problem solving, is what it takes to be an effective future school leader. So I guess that brings me to question 2, about why am I passionate about leading in a rural area specifically. To be honest, I don't think I ever would have considered being a school leader in a rural area if it wasn't for the school and job I'm currently teaching in. As mentioned before, I studied sociology in college, and something that always struck me was the lack of research and attention focused on issues in rural communities, especially in regards to rural education. Especially now that I live in a rural community, I find the stereotypes prevalent outside the region to be completely absurd. I cannot wrap my head around the fact that anyone could doubt those same students that wow me every single day with their loyalty and determination and capabilities. My classroom is constantly full of artists and singers and problem solvers and language learners and brilliant minds, and I am just so motivated by the chance that the rest of the world might never get to meet them as they are. I mean that in the sense that my students deserve as much opportunity to share their thoughts and ideas and their hearts with the rest of the world as much as any other student in the country. Yet there's also a strong sense of apathy and disenfranchisement for having been ignored by those in power for so long, for hearing stereotypes and perceiving, whether accurately or not, that they are somehow less valid or valuable than any other student. So I think the motivation I have now to be a rural school leader comes from that desire to fight for kids like Allie and Cole and Mackenzie and Samantha and Zach, to be encouraged and for them to get the skills and experiences they need to follow their dreams and find success however it is they define that. At times I've considered going to policy or research about education, but I've seen how quickly people in those positions can fall out of touch sometimes with the students that they're responsible for and that they profess to support. As a school leader, I think I would get the best of both worlds. I would have the awesome responsibility to represent and advocate endlessly for all of the students and staff in my school, and the opportunity to build deep relationships with those people, as well as work at higher levels against any stereotypes or barriers that might otherwise inhibit my inspiring, determined, innovative students. So for question 3, starting with my administration, my principal, I think my whole administration would first and foremost say that I am an advocate for my kids. My principal is not at the school much, but in the interactions I have had with him, and especially with my assistant principal, Mrs. Bricken, I probably am overwhelming at times in wanting to share the successes that my students are having in Spanish class. Mrs. Bricken, I think, would also add that I am very passionate about what I do. Multiple times, she's told me directly that I have the heart of a teacher, which from her is both a very high compliment and very humbling. As being the first person that I met at my current school, as well as someone that has been at that school for over 20 years, I'm very glad that she can see me as someone invested in the work alongside her at our school and in our community. I would agree that in this past year, I've really found that my passion for this work, and become more and more of an advocate because I want my students to be able to access as many awesome opportunities as possible. I've argued for the benefits of world language constantly to be able to have the chance to teach Spanish 3 next year, which I think now is going to happen, which has never existed at the school before, as well as sought funding or at least permission to fundraise for my students to get to participate in the state showcase, national credit-based proficiency assessments like the stamp test, and as well as for myself to have access to excellent world language professional development, both from the state and from the region, so that I can continuously improve the instruction and experience that students have in my own classroom. Now, if you were to ask Daryl, our head custodian, I really enjoy talking with Daryl, and I think he, more than maybe anybody else at the school, has probably seen me at my best and my worst. He's in my classroom every day, sometime between 3 and 5 p.m. to mop the floors, and without fail, I am always still there. At different times, he has found me asleep on my desk at the end of a very long day in first year teaching, not being able to keep my eyes open a second past 3 o'clock from exhaustion. But he's also found me in tears after a tough conversation with a parent over phone, or a difficult debrief with my MTLD, or on cloud 9, grinning from ear to ear after a particularly meaningful or exciting day with my students. For all this, I think Daryl would probably say that I'm dedicated, or he might just say that I'm at school way too much. But in those afternoon talks, I think he's seen me start to internalize the role and adapt over time to my position, as we both share the pride for our school and for the students as well. While I don't have anyone else in my department, I think other teachers in my school, particularly when I started and throughout first year, might say that I'm a little overwhelming. In fact, a few in the first year actually told me that they thought that I was doing too much, that I was trying too hard. And when they say this, I think they mostly meant that I was going to burn out if I kept at the pace that I was at with the long hours at school and worrying so much about every individual student and each little problem that might have arisen in my classroom. But I also got the impression that they thought I was doing too much because some of them don't think it's worth it anymore. For a long time that bothered me, because in my mind I just couldn't see anything, any one problem that I could drop, anything that I was willing to wait before addressing. I had to fix everything right then. I think that's a pretty natural trait of a first year teacher. But I definitely would have agreed with them that the pace that I was working at was unsustainable. Now that I found some level of balance and I'm not always exhausted by the end of the day, I think I've taken more of a lead role in creating a closer community among my fellow teachers, which I know that they appreciate and that I appreciate the work that they're doing as well. For example, we organized an ugly sweater contest that I helped set up during the holidays, which was really fun, but I think those actions and let us be more connected as a unit for our students. So I think if you asked my colleagues today, I think they would say that I'm a partner in their school now. As for my students' families, well, honestly, usually the first thing my students' parents actually say when they meet me is that you look too young to be a teacher. But I think overall parents would say that I'm genuine. Um, I know parents know their kids best, so when I reach out to them about academic or behavioral concerns, which I'm realizing a lot of other teachers at my school don't do, parents are really grateful and start to see me as a collaborator in their students' success rather than just another face that is in a classroom at the school all day. I think particularly of a parent that I emailed earlier this year, or rather she emailed me with concerns about her son's grade, and I responded with some suggestions of what he could do for extra practice outside of school, as well as a few dates that I would be able to stay to tutor him after school. And I was met with a really heartfelt response about, thanking me for being so open and willing to find a solution, which was strange because that seems like base level respect to a parent who really knows what's best for their kid. When I meet parents after the kids have apparently told them about how energetic and crazy my class can be and about all the silly stories we tell, most parents find and say that I'm exactly as energetic and a little weird as they had imagined that their kids had described, which is a positive thing for me because I like being very energetic and open. One particular interaction that stuck with me that I think kind of shows what a student's parents directly would say was this fall at a soccer game. The mom of a student that I had in Spanish 1, but then relocated to another school this year, approached me and thanked me for all the hard work and the joy that I gave her son in my class last year, which was shocking because as my first year, I wasn't sure that I had brought any joy at all into my classroom, but glad to hear that I had. And she wanted to let me know that Zach in his Spanish 2 class now at his new school is ahead and is getting the chance to be a leader and actually helping teach his classmates a lot of the things that he learned in my class as far as proficiency and writing and speaking in full sentences and using a lot of the vocab that he learned in my class, which is a really special thing to hear. I think sincere interactions with parents like this reminds me exactly why I do what I do, and encourages me to continue being myself, being my genuine self with my students every single day.